Welcome, Game Chasers everywhere, to episode 34 of The Collecting Confidant with your host, GunstarHero, and I'm back this week with another installment of the Solar News Report. For those of you new to the channel, that of course stands for the state of limited print and retail news, where instead of just reviewing one game, I cover a multitude of games, whether there's just previews of games that haven't come out yet, or maybe a demo that I've played for a game that's fully available in retail, or just cover a game that I've kind of had a dalliance with but haven't necessarily finished, and again just allows me to stretch my legs a bit and talk about multiple titles within a news format. Now, this week's format is going to be more casual because I noticed the last few weeks that I've been kind of stringing through a bunch of hardcore games that are kind of brutally difficult at times. And I was telling my girlfriend, it would be nice to just have a break and play something that's a little bit more casual for once. So I thought I'd stretch my legs a bit this week and go into some more casual titles that will appeal to fans outside of the hardcore genre. And just a quick update on the channel itself before we get into the Solar Report. As you know, of course, I do commit to putting out videos every Tuesday, and it's been really great. But in terms of work-life balance and maintaining that, I'm going to try something a bit different for the foreseeable future. I'm actually going to scale this channel back to a bi-weekly format, which will, of course, allow me to hopefully increase the quality and not lose my head in the process because, of course, like most of you, I do have day jobs, and, of course, it's just about maintaining balance. So we're going to try the bi-weekly format for the foreseeable future, and we'll see how that goes and see what your feedback's like. So getting back into the Solar News Report, got two titles on the docket today, and of course both of those are casual themed. The first one is for the Nintendo Switch and the PC. This is a life simulator action RPG by the name of Harvestella, which just came out on November the 4th, 2022 in retail, physically only for the Nintendo Switch for $59.99 USD. You can get it from all major retailers, and if you want to give it a shot, you can actually download the demo right now from the eShop for the Nintendo Switch and be able to play the first two chapters of the game and get an idea of whether it's for you. Now, from the outset, I'm going to tell you right now that this game has been described as Final Fantasy meets Stardew Valley, and by other reviewers as Square Enix's answer to Rune Factory. I'm going to be completely transparent from the outset that I've never played Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley or Rune Factory or any type of agricultural life simulator RPGs, so I'm completely new to the genre. Not something that really appealed to me in the past, but I will say I decided to stretch my boundaries a bit and give this demo a go, and I was shocked by how much I actually enjoyed it and really got into the zen of this whole experience. So let's go over the game briefly as to what it's about and why you should consider giving this a shot, especially if you're looking for something a little bit easier on the soul. Again, this is a lifestyle simulator action RPG. The story loosely is that you are on this planet where these four massive crystals known as the sea slite, they govern the four seasons, right? And basically bless all the life on that planet. Well, what's happening now is that these sea slite crystals have been functioning abnormally lately because this new mid-season period called quietus is starting to interrupt in between each of the four seasons, where it's called the season of death, where of course all the crops wither and die, and there's this poisonous gas that forces all the inhabitants to stay inside. So during one of these quietus periods, you, the main character, a traveler known by the name of ININ as default, and of course like in any RPG you can name this character whatever you want, but you wake up as this traveler who collapses in the middle of quietus and is rescued by this doctor named Cress. So you are then given this small home and a plot of land to get back on your feet. And during the initial time in this town, you stumble upon this girl named Aria who claims to be from the future. And what's happening with her is that she's actually doing research into this quietus period, into why it's starting to encroach in between the seasons. So of course you, along with Arya and some of the allies you're going to meet along your journey, are going to go on this quest to figure out why quietus is slowly starting to encroach upon everybody's normal life and try to figure out a way to stop it. Now, Because this is a lifestyle simulator action RPG, of course, the whole game is going to be governed by time. Time is constantly ticking in this game and passing as you progress through the 4 seasons, which each season is comprised of 30 days each, and in between season, you're going to have to go through the quietest period. Now, the game, even though time is constantly ticking, is designed to be played casually and doesn't really necessarily have a deadline. So you can play the game as slow or as fast or as inefficiently or as efficiently as you want. The only thing is, if you play the demo, you're going to get a bit of a different feel for the game, because in the demo that you're going to download for the Switch, you only have 15 days maximum to complete the first 2 chapters before the demo ends. So it is going to make you feel like you're rushed at some times trying to get all the tasks done. But again, that's not the intent of the full game. When you actually play that, you'll have more than enough time to go through the events. And what I love about the game is the way that it's designed. It's laid out in such a way to encourage a routine. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a routine, but I found that having a daily routine in this game will give you the most benefit out of it. And I'll give you an example how this works. So every day when you wake up in your bed, you'll wake up at 6 a.m. What's the first thing you do? When you pass out of your bed and into your living room, you're going to notice a crafting table. So typically, that's the first thing I'll do in my day. I'll go to the crafting table and craft any supplies I think I'm going to need on my quests or farming for the coming day. It's still early in the day, and all the shops in the adjacent town don't open up till 8 o'clock, so you definitely have some time to get your morning tasks done. And one of the most important tasks and one of the main things and focuses of this game is the farming and the livestock and the harvesting, because you can have livestock, you can go fishing, and also maintain your own farm. So the first thing you'll typically do in the morning before the shops start to open is you'll take any seeds that you have, plant them, cultivate them, you'll actually water them, you'll till the soil, do all that fun stuff, and you'll also harvest any plants and crops that you've planted previously. And once you harvest these, you have 2 options. You can either A, keep the materials and use them for cooking so you can make meals for the local residents, or B, you can actually earn a living by putting these crops into the blue shipping containers, which you'll get the money for the following day. So this will take up the majority of the morning. And then once you're done with your harvesting, your crop farming, typically the next thing you'll do is you'll go into the adjacent town and start to socialize. And this is another big aspect of the game in terms of creating and developing relationships, because this is not only going to help you in terms of your quests, but also in terms of earning money and leveling up, because when you go to the town, you'll be talking to all the different residents and eventually unlocking side quests that you can do for them to build your relationship status. So the more you engage with these allies and residents and do favors for them, the closer you're going to get to them. And eventually, if you get to like a 10 out of 10 closeness, you can then unlock a partnership event where if you complete it, you become life partners. And then even when the game is complete, you live and work together as life partners and continue just to have your farm and go about your daily life. So there's definitely something to keep you going even after the main story is complete and to really truly have an enriching experience. So I would say that will take up the first part of your day, and then once all that's done, you've gone into the town and maybe bought your supplies, bought some extra gear, some extra machinery for your farm. At that point, now you're gonna have to start going out and questing and gathering resources. So this is where the action part of the game starts to get into, where you're going to start going to dungeons and doing quests to gather materials, and then also engage in combat with monsters and push the story forward. So when you're going on your quest, in terms of the combat, it is an action RPG in real time, although I will say that the developers described it as more of a command RPG with action elements. And I did pick up on that when I was engaged in battle. So even though you've got your melee attacks and your jump and dodge, and you've got your magic attacks as well, you don't have any ability to block or parry, so you are going to take damage whether you like it or not during these battles. And that's why I felt like even though it was real-time action, it did have somewhat of a turn-based feel to it, but it does work. It's pretty fluid, and what's nice about it too is that there's 12 different job classes that you can switch between on the fly. So at one point you might want to be a fighter or a mage. You can do that during battle with cooldowns, of course. Also, in terms of the questing, what's really interesting about it is that all the quests are impossible to finish within one day. And I found this out the hard way, that it kind of feels like a bit of a grind where you'll complete part of the quest and then all of a sudden timer's running out, because during the quest, you'll have a hunger meter and a stamina meter, and if your stamina runs out, you could possibly end up collapsing and then returning home. So you're going to have to keep an eye on that. And of course, as your stamina is running low, you'll have to eat food to raise it. But even then, time is also running against you, because there is a rule in game that if you stay out past midnight and don't return home by then, you could also potentially collapse and end up back in your bed. And if that actually happens, what'll happen in that case is you will wake up in bed, you'll have to pay a doctor's fee as a punishment, and then not only that, but you'll not wake up at 6 a.m., you'll sleep into 12 p.m. and lose almost half of the following day. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to your HP, your stamina, and making sure you're getting home on time. Meaning that if you're in the middle of a difficult quest, sometimes you're just going to have to hit that checkpoint, go back home, start over again the next day, and continue on where you left off. So again, quests are going to take multiple days, but there's something to be said about that, because again, in the full game, it does allow you to feel like you're not under this time crunch, so to speak, that you can just complete quests without any true deadline. And some days you may not even want to do quests. Maybe some days you just might want to go fishing or tend to your crops or just go socialize and build your relationships. The game gives you the freedom to do that, which is what I really appreciate about it, because it's just a nice casual experience. And in terms of the demo versus the full game, I did talk about how the demo, of course, is limited to 15 days. There's also a lot of things that are going to be changing the full game based on the feedback that the developers received about the demo. So number one, they noticed from feedback that fans were complaining that time was passing too quickly when you were traveling the overworld map and going through the valleys. So they decided to slow down time. They're also working on lessening loading times, doing little quality of life improvements like increasing the speed of the mage's attacks, and so on and so forth. So they're definitely listening. They're definitely improving the game as we speak. But if you are interested in getting it now, it is available now at retailers, major everywhere, for $59.99 US. And of course, if you want to get a taste for it, you can go now to the Nintendo eShop and get the demo. And of course, the game is also available on Steam. And I will say, one of my minor gripes with the game, even though it is stunningly beautiful, like the art design is fantastic, the use of color, the sound, the only thing about playing it on the Switch is that the Switch is old hardware now, and it's definitely starting to show its age. So from a performance perspective, if you're looking for better frame rate, you might want to opt for the Steam version. Anyway, that's Harvestella. A shocking surprise to me in the sense that I didn't feel like I was even going to get into this game, because I've never really been into farming games, but now that I've had a chance to delve into it, I actually think I may end up picking this up, because I had way more fun than I deserve to have with this game. So I recommend this, especially for all you fans of Stardew Valley, Rune Factory, Harvest Moon. This will definitely be up your valley, but even if you've never played those games before, this game is inviting and isn't hardcore, and if you're new to the genre, will give you enough to sink your teeth into and get used to it. So that's Harvestella. We'll be back in a second with our next game. Stay tuned. And we're back with the second part of this Solar News Report. Of course, we're talking about casual theme games this week. And the next game is a puzzler and a new iteration of a classic series that is very dear to my heart and gives me a lot of nostalgia from my old arcade games. This, of course, will be Bobble Everybubble, which is slated for release next spring of 2023, but is currently available for physical pre-order on the Nintendo Switch only via strictlylimitedgames.com in 3 different formats. We'll get into that very soon. But of course, the game itself is a spin-off of the classic Bubble Bobble from 1986, but this series, Puzzle Bobble, has actually been around for a long time. It originally came out in 1994 for the Neo Geo, the Super Nintendo. It was actually known for many years as Bust a Move in North America. So 2 different titles, whereas this time, the developers decided that they just want to go with one identity and are going to be calling it Puzzle Bobble in North America. Now, if you're thinking, all right, I've played Puzzle Bobble a million times and a million different iterations, and frankly, there's been 20 different iterations of this series, but this one is going to be adding some very cool new modes, which I want to highlight. So, first of all, if you've never played Puzzle Bobble, very simply, it's one of those match 3 type puzzle games where you shoot bubbles from the bottom, you try to match it up with the same color and eliminate all the bubbles before your bubbles reach this little line at the bottom, and if it does, it's game over. So you're trying to clear all the bubbles in that time frame before time runs out. That's a single player mode, but then there's also the classic head-to-head battle mode, which we used to play for hours on in the arcades, where you play against either a human or computer opponent, you shoot bubbles, and the whole objective is to send clusters of bubbles careening onto your opponent's battlefield. So it gets pretty crazy, fast, frenetic, and competitive, and can honestly result in a lot of scream matches, but lots of fun to be had. Well, it's keeping that formula intact for this new installment, but adding some really cool new features. So first of all, from a campaign perspective, they're really trying to flesh out the story this time in terms of having it play out across the entirety of Rainbow Island and having this very kind of loose story based on the fact that these Minaroons have started all of a sudden blowing all these bubbles everywhere, and they're trying to figure out who's behind this because it's messing with all the residents of the Rainbow Island. So apparently, for all of you fans of the series, it's going to be delving more deeply into each of the characters from past games in terms of kind of melding this story all together. But regardless, you'll still have the good old single player puzzle mode where you'll be going through all these different quests, clearing all the arenas. But what it's adding now is the fact that instead of just going on this alone, you can get up to 4-player co-op to go and take on this campaign, which is pretty awesome. I've never actually seen this done in the series before. This is a series first, so I did get to watch some of the gameplay. And what's really nice about this is that it allows for newcomers to the series to be helped out by veterans. So if you've got some more experienced players playing alongside with you, you can help each other out in terms of progressing ahead. And I truly feel that this is going to lend to some really chaotic and frenetic gameplay, which is going to breathe some new life into this classic series. So definitely something to look forward to if you're thinking about picking this up. But then, of course, I talked about my favorite part of the game, which is the battle mode. Of course, traditionally, you would have 1 versus 1 battle modes, and that was pretty chaotic into itself. But now they decided to add a 2 versus 2 team battle mode where there's not even like taking turns. Like say you and your partner are both shooting at the same time, and I think it's going to lend a whole new sense of strategy to it. And the developers even said that they feel that this is going to be the fastest and speediest installment of the game yet. So a lot of fun, and also just updated with some really rich visuals, that classic soundtrack. And what's really cool about this is that if you decide to get this physically for the Nintendo Switch, there's going to be some strictly limited games exclusives bundled in with the game. So not only will you get access to Puzzle Bobble Everybubble, but then you're also going to get the original Puzzle Bobble for both the Super Nintendo, known as Bust a Move, but then the original Super Famicom version as well. Both of those are going to be bundled into the cart only. So if you buy this digitally for the Switch, you will get the new game, but to get the old games as well, you're going to have to buy this physically on the Nintendo Switch via strictlylimitedgames.com, and there are going to be 3 versions which are available for pre-order now. The only thing is, as per Strictly Limited Games, they don't have a quote-unquote deadline. They have a certain amount of copies. So let's go over those options now. If you want to go with the standard version, that one is currently going for $49.99 US. But of course, if you are a Puzzle Bobble fanatic, you can opt for some of the pricier collector's versions. There's a mid-tier collector's version with a bunch of goodies going for $89.99 US, and of course an ultimate version for $149.99 US, which includes some plushies of the main characters, Bub and Bob. So again, if you're really into those games and you want to get the physical copy, you better act soon because those are going quickly. But otherwise, something for us to look forward to next spring. If you're into the Puzzle Bobble and you especially love that head-to-head competitive mode, there are so many new ways to play this, and the developers even said that they're not done with announcing all of the new features. So this is what I know so far about the game, but at least for now, you can get your pre-orders ready and get excited. So thank you for watching episode 34 of The Collecting Confidant, another installment of the Solar News Report. Like I said, we'll be moving to a bi-weekly format for a little while to see how that goes. So in the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Later, Game Chasers, and peace.